Okay, so welcome to our second video. Tonight we're going to be talking about the second part of the Bolshevik consolidation of power, Lenin and his philosophy and his ideologies, which are attributed to the Bolshevik consolidation. So I want to recap the end of our last class and then let you know what we'll be learning tonight. So at the end of our last class we talked about how the Bolsheviks returned to Petrograd following the end of the Tsar's rule. This included Stalin in March and he was followed by Lenin in April. Stalin was initially anti-Lenin, but it was Lenin who provided those successful leadership skills and his ideology for the successful Bolshevik revolution in October. It was his aim and urge to return to that class war, and it's his stance that the Bolsheviks should infiltrate the armies and encourage soldiers to turn their weapons on the officers. So tonight, in preparation for tomorrow's class, we'll be looking at Lenin and his Bolshevik revolution of 1917. We'll be looking at the actions which are attributed to the Bolshevik consolidation of power. And if we get time, we will touch on the social and political reforms of the Bolshevik government. So, welcome to Lenin. Please use the link below down here to read his short bio. It should only take you a couple of minutes. Pause the video, go to that link and read his bio. So Lenin returned to Petrograd in April of 1917 following that February-March revolution, and he immediately began pushing for socialist revolution. His slogan, "All power to the Soviets," was a clear recognition that the Soviets contained the necessary force to end provisional government rule. So initially, Stalin and Kamenev ignored Lenin's instructions because they were anti-Lenin. Rather, they argued that international negotiations should begin regarding the war. They were focused on the war that was still occurring in Europe. For Stalin, it was important that the Bolsheviks put pressure on the provisional government to announce its willingness to start peace talks at once. Kamenev backed Stalin's stance and thought it was possible and desirable for the Bolsheviks to link again with the Mensheviks. This was a philosophy known as consolidation, and it was to be totally rejected by Lenin upon his return in April. It must be noted that Trotsky also returned to Russia in May and then joined the Bolshevik Party in July. This was the same month in which the Bolsheviks launched an armed demonstration. This takeover failed, but they were not eradicated. So prior to his return, the Bolsheviks had considered the dual authority to be part of a genuine revolution, that of the provisional government with the Petrograd Soviet. Rather than giving freedom, Lenin saw the February-March revolution as creating a parliamentary bourgeois republic. He therefore condemned the parliament and called for an overthrow and a genuine revolution. Lenin's April theses outlined how the Bolsheviks' evolution into a revolutionary proletariat party was going to be done. It included the abandonment of all cooperation with other parties, by working for a true revolution entirely by their own efforts, by overthrowing the provisional government, by transferring power to the workers through provoking class war, and assisting the workers to seize factories while the peasants seized the land, by ending Russian involvement in World War I, and by demanding that authority be passed to the Soviets. A.J.P. Taylor saw these theses as being one of the most important documents of that year, as they advocated the overthrow of the provisional government. It also promised to establish a republic of Soviets of workers. Lenin had ulterior motive in demanding the Soviets take over the government. He saw them as a power base, one which would provide power for the Bolshevik Party once it had split from the other Petrograd Soviet groups. By infiltrating and taking over, they could take over the states. Along with his all power to the Soviet slogan, which is embedded in their ideology, the slogan of peace, bread and land referred to, in order, the continuing war with Germany, the chronic food shortages, and the disruptions in the countryside. Lenin's basis of ideology stemmed from the issues of war, hunger and land, and therefore his issues with the provisional government were that ministers only governed in the interest of their own class. They had no wish to end the war, which brought profits. There was no supply of food to the Russian people. Lenin wanted to sweep away the current ministers and replace them with Soviets. The three ideological issues that Lenin focused on were to be what would lead to the provisional government's downfall. So I want you to stop, pause the video for a second and jot down what you think of when you think about Bolshevik ideology. We've already talked about communist ideology. I'd like you to think about how this relates to Bolshevik ideology and perhaps answer the question, what is Bolshevik ideology, or what does it mean? So the Bolsheviks followed a Marxist philosophy which said that wealth and power should be distributed equally. Marxism argued that industrialization had created appalling conditions for workers. As a result, Marxists believed that industrial workers in cities, the proletariat, would rise up against those who owned the means of production. After this revolution, private property would be eliminated. The government would own the means of production and use the profits to benefit all. The Bolsheviks believed in the creation of a strong, well-led working class which would overthrow the existing government. In order to achieve this, they worked towards a small, tightly knit, strictly organised party made up of full-time revolutionaries who would lead the working class to a better society. The Bolsheviks were renamed the Communists in 1918 following the 1917 revolution and were intent on establishing a new world order where everyone will be free and equal regardless of wealth, gender or race. So what I would like you to do now is open up your textbooks by Cantwell and Brady, and I'd like you to read page 32 through to 35. So you'll be looking at Lenin's concepts of bread, peace and land, and Lenin and the Bolsheviks, just to consolidate your knowledge. And I'd like to leave you with a question tonight of Lenin's rise to power. And the question is, how did Lenin's rise to power contribute to the Bolsheviks' consolidation of power? What I'd like you to do is, using the video tonight and your textbook, write up half a page of dot points on this question and bring these to class tomorrow. We will be working on this topic and researching it further. So the question again is, how did Lenin's rise to power contribute to the Bolshevik consolidation of power? Thank you.